What's up, guys? If you're new to my channel, thanks for checking out the video. I'm here to give you guys an in-depth review of Subnautica Below Zero and why you shouldn't waste your money on it like I did. Just a heads up, this review might contain some minor spoilers, so the game looks really nice. The graphics and detail work they did in it is stunning. The new creatures have great designs. Otherwise, I don't have too many good things to say about it. There will be some positives in the review, but for the most part, that's it. And the game is still a work in progress, and they're putting up new updates pretty often. So if this game gets to a point where I would recommend it, I'll even put up a new review, but until then, it's not worth the money. So the building system in the game can be enjoyable. There's a decent amount of things you can do to like give your own personal spin on whatever base it is you're building. Like they've added the ability to customize the color of the exterior of your base like you can with the vehicles, which is really cool. I was hoping they would do that in the first game. And there's also a lot of new decorations they've put in, like stuff for a bathroom or a kitchen. Most of them are just cosmetic, but they do look nice, and if you're building a bigger base, it's nice to just have that ability to add those kinds of decorations. So one of the first things I noticed when I started a new game is the total lack of voice acting, even in the opening cinematic, which isn't like a huge deal because the game's not finished. But then I got a little further in, and the very next cinematic I saw that the protagonist is voice acted. They have an actor for her. And in that cinematic still, there's two people talking and only the protagonist is voiced, which it was kind of jarring, just to go from not expecting there to be any dialogue in this game after that opening cinematic to hearing someone speak. So there's also I've put like 20-something hours into this game to feel like I can adequately make this review, and honestly it just feels lazy. Like the UI for the main menu and the inventory are exactly the same as they were from the last game. The only real difference is that your character's PDA that they have like all the inventory management stuff on and everything is a different color, but even that you only notice for like a second or two when you're pulling out your PDA and putting it back away. So like I just feel like it feels more like a DLC than a sequel to the original game at that point, just because everything's so similar. There's also the fact that the in-game databank, which stores information on all the creatures you've come across, or any plant life, anything like that, they left all of the entries from the original game for creatures and plant life and all that kinds of stuff that isn't in this sequel. It's all still there. Now you've got to go into the console and unlock all the entries to find those removed items, but the fact that they aren't removed from the game altogether just to me feels lazy. And I've never made a game. I don't know how hard it would be to take those out, but I can't imagine it would be too difficult. You can even find the entry for the submarine from the original game, which was one of the 3 vehicles in that game that they removed and replaced with a new one. And that new vehicle is the sea truck, which is one of my other big issues with this game. the sea truck feels like an insult to people that were fans of the first game. They put it in to replace both the Cyclops, which is the submarine I just mentioned, and the Sea Moth, which is the first vehicle you get in the original game. It's just this small, quick little ship. And in comparison to both of those, the sea truck has about no advantages on them. It doesn't quite function as well as like a mobile base as the Cyclops would, and it's not quite as versatile as the Sea Moth. And I understand removing the Cyclops because it was very large and there are a lot more narrow spaces in Below Zero than there were on the original, but the best part of the Cyclops was that you could use the habitat builder, which is the tool you use to create your base and all that kind of stuff, and you could build things like a fabricator or storage or anything inside of your Cyclops. Whereas with the sea truck, it's got some functions of a mobile base, but instead of using your habitat builder to add those functions in, you have to go out and find fragments to modules so that you can unlock the blueprint and then build those modules that aren't customizable at all. Instead, they just attach to the back of the sea truck. So you've got, I think there's 6 modules altogether. There's storage, there's the aquarium module, a docking module, a teleporter module, a sleeper module, and then the fabricator module. And out of all of these, like, I think just the aquarium and the teleporter module are things that, like, add in a new mechanic that something like the Cyclops wouldn't have had. Because, I mean, with the storage module, it's got like 5 different storage containers in it, but if you go through them and add up the space you have between those 5 containers, you've got less storage than you would have otherwise just building 2 lockers with the habitat builder. And then your sleeper module, you could have just as easily built a bed with the habitat builder for less resources and a lot less time spent looking for all the pieces just to get the blueprint. So, I mean, it's really just, it's so much less convenient to the player to use the sea truck as opposed to if they had just taken the Cyclops and remodeled it to something with less space, something smaller that could fit through a lot of those more narrow areas in the game. And then, so there's also the prawn suit, which I think so they had that in the first game, and the prawn suit, a lot of the community, even in the first game, agreed that the best use of it was really just to gather resources from the larger deposits in the game, because they don't give you a different option for drilling them. So generally it's not something you would use early in the game at all. And one of the biggest issues of it, even back then, was that if you took it out of water, it lost most of its versatility. It could still walk, but otherwise, like, the jetpack on the back of it didn't work. It wouldn't, all it would do is just give you like a little bit of a jump, which was fine in the first game because they're like 2 small islands and you only really have to go to them a couple of times, and they don't have that many threats on them that you would have to try to get away from. But in Below Zero, so much of the story takes place on land that not changing that making it so that you still can't use that as like an adequate method of getting around on land, just seems really counterintuitive. Like, that's also got a grappling hook attachment that you can make for the prawn suit, but above water that still isn't that useful, because I mean, it won't take you to where it's going. It might lift you off the ground a little bit, but for the most part it's not going to get you away from threats. And then neither of those vehicles really are going to take you down to some of the deepest places that you'll need to get to the game. I want to say fully upgraded, both of them are going to get you down to 900 meters, and there isn't much deeper than that, but there are some places you have to go that are deeper, which just can really leave you in a bad spot, because if they're down there below where they're supposed to go for too long, they'll end up getting destroyed from the crusher. So with taking out the vehicles from the last game and adding in the sea truck, which I didn't mention, until you've upgraded, the sea truck can only go to 150 meters deep, and even for the very first part of the story you've got to go deeper than that. It's really rendered almost useless until you're able to upgrade it, which is just, to me, like kind of a slap in the face to your players. If you take away vehicles they love and replace two loved vehicles and with one that is barely competent at completing the minimal tasks. I don't know, it's just, it doesn't sit right with me. And then there's also the fact that the actual story for the game, looking past the issues with the vehicles and all that stuff, focusing on the story is really tough to do, because they don't really provide you any clear indication of where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do, which left me personally, anything I didn't stumble across by mistake, I ended up having to look up where to go and find guides and things like that. And you shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't be something that isn't necessary for an exploration game like this, because while exploring is the main point, they should at least give you a nudge in the right direction. But that's just fully missing from this. And even when they do try to give you a nudge in the right direction, they haven't fleshed that out yet, so you'll get little blurbs of a hint. Like, there's one where it's literally just in brackets, it says cryptic directions to greenhouse. In those brackets, there's no actual direction. There's no hint as to where that might be, where it's leading you to, or anything like that. It just, they're meaning to put cryptic directions there, and they haven't yet, so instead they put that there, which is completely useless to the player. It offers nothing of value. And then when they do tell you where you're supposed to be going or what to do, they'll tell you something like they'll tell you that you need to go to Outpost Omega, and they won't tell you where Outpost Omega is. They won't tell you what biome it's in. They won't even tell you if it's above or below water. That doesn't help. Like, that's not helpful in any way to anyone. So, I mean, I can keep going on about the issues I have with this game for a while, probably. I've spent a lot of time playing it just so that I can get a good idea of what I was going to put in this review, because I think it only took me about 2 hours to decide that I needed to make a video reviewing this to explain to people the issues that I have with it. But these problems that I've stated in this video are the biggest issues I've got with it. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. So thanks to everybody who watched. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you want more reviews or gameplay content, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be trying to get on a much better schedule with uploading things. Most of what I've uploaded now is just like recordings of streams I've done on Twitch, which isn't really the most enjoyable thing to watch when you're going on YouTube, I'm sure. But if you have anything to add or anything you disagree with or even suggestions for other reviews or gameplay stuff I should do, let me know in the comments. I'll be sure to keep checking and responding to any comments I get. Thanks, as always. I'm Peyton. This is Pal.